Hey, what's up? Just want to thank you guys for watching our channel. Please hit that subscribe button. One of the things about podcasts in general, and really our podcast a lot, is we talk a lot about good stuff, and sometimes we have to talk about bad stuff. And I thought we could sort of start our conversation with the end of last season. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that Giannis was hurt for those 2.5 games. But from your perspective, you lived it. What happened in that Heat series?
Just didn't play our best basketball. And I think everybody saw what Miami did, what Jimmy did especially in that series. But like I always say, credit to them. We just weren't good enough. We could point the finger. We could make so many excuses for ourselves. But at the end of the day, we weren't good enough to advance, to compete for a championship. And Miami, they were great. They were well prepared. They played hard as shit every night. They fell short, but I mean, still, they deserved to win that series, and we didn't. It's just simple as that.
Yeah, I argued many times, both on the podcast and on ESPN during their run last year. Like we weren't really talking about a fluke. We were talking about a team that had been to the finals, had been to the conference finals, Game 7 the year prior, had an abysmal shooting season for most of the regular season, and then towards the end shot it well, and of course in the playoffs, outside of really the Knicks series, shot it extremely well as well. There is one specific question I have to ask, because you know this. You've won a championship. You've been in deep playoff runs, played in the league a long time. Late game execution is such a big part of winning and losing in the NBA. And I was not in the huddle, but I was watching Game 5. You guys are up 2. They're taking the ball out of bounds. Was that supposed to be a switch with Pat and Jrue?
No, I don't think that was supposed to be a switch. I can't remember exactly what happened, but Pat ended up down there. I think that was just trying to help throw an extra body. I can't remember exactly what it was supposed to be. It's a hell of a play, hell of a catch, hell of a finish, hell of a pass. And for us, it's just poor execution, just to put ourselves in that situation from the start. I mean, I don't think if we won that game, we changed a lot of things at the end of that game, so we're not in that position. So it happened. We watch it, we learn from it, and we move on.
Yeah. Again, I wasn't suggesting that someone made an error there. I'm always curious with that stuff.
Yeah.
I go back, what was it, Toronto versus Philly 2 years ago in the playoffs. I thought Toronto had a chance to switch late game. Joel Embiid ends up getting wide open, makes a game winner. And so much of the playoffs is about, it's not even necessarily like a lack of execution defensively. It is about the offensive executing well. The other part about that series that was really interesting was Giannis's comments afterwards. And he talked about failure and what is failure. And it went completely viral. And I'm just curious if you have any perspective on his comments, but also in the sort of course of your career, the highs and lows of being an NBA player, professional athlete, if you have your own perspective on what it means to succeed and what it means to fail.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember exactly what Giannis said, but I kind of remember the gist of it. I agree when that's his perspective. That's how he thinks of it. As far as my career, I think I look at failures when you just don't try. I think you can't only look at success as if you win. I mean, that's everybody. So everybody expects to win or wants to win, but everybody's not going to win, especially every year, every game, every night, whatever. So my thing is, if you're not trying, you're failing. You're not even giving yourself a chance.
I'm literally having this conversation on a daily basis with my 7-year-old. We were talking about our kids before this.
Yeah, fundamental thing about just, trying and giving in your all. That's the only way.
Well, the other point is, and I think Giannis touched on this, is you can't grow unless you fail, right? There's no path to growth. There's no path to excellence without some failure along the way. And I said this at the time, and I'll say it again. I think oftentimes we individually and we collectively get so caught up in the moment, right? And don't look at the big picture and don't look at all of this as a journey. And I loved his comments, and even when I, to a degree, defended them, I got backlash for it too. I got called an idiot. So I don't know. I just loved it. The other point I wanted to make on that series, or question I wanted to ask about, was just on Jimmy, and by and large, you guys didn't double him a ton. Jrue, who is, I think, if not the best perimeter defender, one of the best perimeter defenders of our generation, played with him, played against him, was guarded by him. Jrue primarily guarded him one-on-one. And I wanted to get some insight from you as a player that you could provide for the fans, for the listeners, for the viewers, on what it's like when you're in a playoff series and another player on the opposing team is playing out of his mind.
Yeah, it's tough to contain sometimes. I think especially if we don't throw double teams at them. So that's one thing we talked about, just didn't do it. That wasn't the game plan we wanted to go with. We wanted to go with Jrue because we have a lot of trust in Jrue, his track record, what he's done, what he's known for. And we have the utmost confidence in all our teammates. If they speak on something and say, this is what I want to do, especially with a guy like Jrue, we're going to listen to him more times than not. But that series, man, you seen some of the shots that Jimmy hit. Like you said, they were hot. They weren't shooting like that all season long. And in the playoff series, they hit their shot at the right time. So as a player, it's just when your teammate is known for what he does, but what's happening on the other end, with a guy like Jrue, there's not much you could say. I mean, because Jrue is playing defense at an all-time high level. He's just making shots over. I think the only thing we could have done differently to maybe change the outcome of the way Jimmy plays to double team him. We didn't do it. That was a decision we made as a team, as a group, and we got to live with that result.
Yeah. And sometimes when you do make that choice, a player's individual greatness matters. You talk about Jrue's track record and just his ability to defend. Quick anecdote. I've worked out a couple NBA players this summer out in Bridgehampton, and had a guy in last week, and we were talking about creating separation, and we were talking about how guys maneuver around picks. And the one guy he kept bringing up was Jrue.
Yes.
And he's like, dude, I think I beat him. I think he's got hit on the screen, and all of a sudden he's getting a rear view contest, or he's blocking my shot, or he's picking my pocket.
Yes.
His agility and his ability to just move around picks has always been so impressive to me.